Alright, so stories. EA offers an explanation as to why they don't support the Switch. Okay, this is kind of interesting. Let's see. So, Andrew Wilson was asked why EA shies away from creating titles for the Switch. And his answer is anytime we've evaluated platform conversations, we're really looking at a couple of things. One, does the game really fit the profile of the platform in terms of the controller community ecosystem? Two, do we think the community playing on the platform would appreciate the game and go there, or would they prefer to play the title elsewhere? We have a lot of data that would suggest a great many Switch owners also own a PS4 or an Xbox One or a PC, and very often choose to play the games that we make on those platforms, even though they have a Switch and they enjoy a lot of great content on the Switch. Really, EA? Really? What the What is up, everybody? Bobby here, the Nintendo Guru, man. It's that time for that breakdown, right? Yeah, a little going a little too hyper. Let's just slow it down a little bit. Woosah, I'm a little hyped. Okay, so it's time for that breakdown. Every single episode that I do this, right? I take the top Nintendo stories of the day, talk about them, discuss them, break them down, give my opinions on them. So,
here we go.
Man, EA, you have like cojones this big. Because here's the thing. So I want to throw this out there, right? Pre-Switch, when we're on the Wii U, EA left Nintendo. EA abandoned Nintendo, right? They were just like, we don't need to make games for the Wii U for Nintendo anymore. We're kind of done. They hadn't made anything on the 3DS. It was over, right? So now Nintendo actually goes and courts EA. There was a bunch of indie developers, and I was on record on saying this way back. There was a bunch of indie developers that Nintendo was kind of like just stiff-arming and not giving development kits to, because they were going after the EAs and the Ubisofts and the Activisions and all the big dogs. All the people that turned a blind eye to them on the Wii U, Nintendo was trying to bring them people back. EA was one of them. EA was a big proponent of it, right? People felt like, hey, Nintendo's actually going after EA. Like, Nintendo is really going after EA and Activision. We might get Destiny. We might get all these crazy games. There was rumors to these games coming to the Switch possibly at launch. The Nintendo Switch launches, right? And it's crickets. Basically, the third-party developers weren't there yet. Nintendo's job, their whole core function was, we need to sell consoles. We sell a boatload of consoles, and everything will kind of come back full circle and work full circle for Nintendo. In terms of, once things get better, once we start selling consoles, once we start showing third-party developers that this is the place to make games, they will start making games for us. Makes sense. Makes absolute sense, because you know what? It started to work that way. Except for one company. One company, EA, feels they don't need to put games on the Switch. They don't need to ever bring games to the Switch. So they bring FIFA, gimped out version of the game. There's so many elements of the game missing. And the game still sells amazing. There was, in Japan, FIFA sold better on the Switch than it did any other version of the game. So the idea that they're going to sit here and tell people that, hey, this thing would do better on a PS4 than on a Switch makes no sense. They come out this year and they say, we're just going to put a legacy collection out there where every year we'll just update the rosters and that's it. You're going to get the game that you have, and that's the game, and that's all you play. Meanwhile, PS4, Xbox One, PC, they all get the upgrades, the full modes, all the changes, everything. Even with these cheap versions of games, EA still has the gall to say, we're not going to put stuff on the Switch because we feel like people who own a Switch also own a PS4 and would prefer to play our game on the PS4 than on the Switch. And I shake my head because I go, the data doesn't necessarily prove what you're saying here. Like, yes, I'm sure you have data, but do you also have the data that shows that when a game launches on the Switch and goes parallel, a lot of times it sells better on the Switch than it does somewhere else? Now, granted, you probably took your data from FIFA. Again, gimped out version. This isn't the version that other people are getting. I had said this on the Wii U because at the time, all these third-party companies were pointing to the Wii U and going like, we don't put games here because Nintendo fans don't buy third-party games. Here we are now on the Switch, and that's all we buy. That's all we buy. We know that we're going to get a lesser quality version, but we still buy it. But here's the thing. When you're taking out major portions of the game, you can't expect people to want to play that version. You can't turn around and charge the same amount of money as you're charging for the other games, but then not give us all the content within the games. Are you understanding what I'm saying here, EA? Are you following me? You're the company that loot boxes kids to death. So much so that the federal government is getting involved in the nonsense and shenanigans that you guys are doing. But we're supposed to believe you when you tell us that we're not putting games out on the Switch because gamers don't want to play games. Gamers don't want to play our games on the Switch. Put a real game out, man. Number one, put a serious game that should do well. If you put a real version of FIFA, probably does well. Why not put The Sims? That's a game that's catered to the Nintendo audience. You put out Unravel well after you put it out on other consoles. That's been shown to prove that 9 times out of 10, if you don't put a game out day and date on the Switch, people might not double dip. People might not come back to it. But a game like Unraveled and Unravel 2, to me, makes sense on the Switch. But you didn't bring out Unravel 2 day and date. You waited 6 months later, maybe more than that, actually, and then you bring it there. May I point you towards a game, just a little game, just this little game called Fortnite. Fortnite was killing it, doing gangbusters. And then they put it on the Nintendo Switch, and the game actually exploded and went up another tier. Because a lot of people started playing it because they had a Switch, and they could play it on the go. What you're not getting is, people will play your games because they want to play them on the go. If you put a Madden out on the Switch, probably sell. If you put a Star Wars game on the Switch, probably sell. Do you get what I'm getting here? Do you see where I'm going here, EA? For a company like you that literally rips people off, for you to point at these guys and go, yeah, fans don't want to play games over there. You're nuts. You're nuts. It's obviously for some reason whatsoever. I'm not really sure what it is. For some reason, you're holding a grudge. And you won't put games out on the Switch. And you're making nonsense excuses. The same way, like you try to tell the UK and Europe and all that stuff, like how loot boxes weren't really loot boxes, they were something else. You try to change the name and all the rubbish. Stop. This is why people don't like your company. Because of the lies and the deceit. Just be honest. You don't want to put games on the Switch. It's fine. Just come out and say it. But don't sit here and sugarcoat and lie and make stuff up. Don't get it. There are games that would sell extraordinarily well on the Switch. Like I said, The Sims. It's hand-tailored, handmade for the Nintendo audience. Doesn't make sense. Dude, how cool would it have been to play Way Out on the handheld devices? One guy has one guy has another, have your switches, and you got your own screens right there in your hands. Doesn't make sense to me. I'm a little confused by the wording and the nonsense that you're saying. And this is why I will continue not to buy EA product. Sorry. It's just something within me that I'm not really, I'd rather talk with my wallet. So if you want to lie to me, then I will be truthful to you. And I will not buy anything that you put out as long as you continue to lie to me. I don't know. So that is all. Thank you guys for watching today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Nintendo Guru. Today, it's today, yes. If you did, please slap the like button down below. Share it with all your friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Follow me Instagram, Twitter, at Nintendo Gurus. That is all. Peace out, Preston.